Alright, so in this video, we will summarize every single thing that we know with regards to trigonometry because the next chapter we will apply this to some real world applications itself. So under the branch of trigonometry, okay, I can basically divide this into two different segments. Okay, so our objective will always be three things. Okay, the length, the sides, sorry, the angles, unknown angles, or basically the area. Okay, and so far we can divide our trigonometry into three different branches. Let's go through the simplest one, which is the area of triangle itself. Because under the area of triangle, you have two different formulas. Okay, you have one that uses the half times base times height. Okay, so if this is height, this is base, we can use the half times base times height, which is what we learned in primary school, or we can use the half AB sine C, where the C is of course your included angle itself. So half AB sine C. Now, more often than not, you will probably have to combine these two together, okay, especially when the question asks you to find the shortest distance. Later on, you will see in chapter 8 this word coming out a lot more often, okay, because the shortest distance is basically your perpendicular distance from the point to the base, which is your height itself. Okay, so more often than not, you will probably have to find the area using half AB sine C first, okay, and then after that equate this with this to find the height, and the height is simply your shortest distance itself. Okay, so that's for your area of triangle itself. Okay, so I hope that's clear for you. Okay, so let's take a look at the next part of trigonometry that we learned. Okay, so in sec 1 and sec 2 we learned about the right angle triangles itself. Okay, so given the right angle triangle, okay, I can either use Pythagoras theorem, which states that if I have A, B, and C, and C is my longest side, so C square is equals to A square plus B square. So the use of Pythagoras theorem is mainly to find unknown lengths. Okay, but you can also use the converse of Pythagoras theorem. So there is this thing called the converse of Pythagoras theorem, where you can actually use check that the lengths are equal. The lengths are basically C square equals to A square plus B square, and if it is equal, then your triangle is a right angle triangle. Okay, so this is Pythagoras theorem. Now under the right angle triangle as well, okay, there's also this thing called the what do you call it, your Torcaso, and basically there will be a reference angle. Okay, so let's call it theta. Okay, so this will be opposite, this will be adjacent, and this will be hypotenuse. So under this thing itself we have sine, so which is sine theta equals to opposite over hypotenuse, cosine theta equals to adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent theta equals to opposite over adjacent. And of course, the main bulk of it is basically to find unknown angles. So whereas Pythagoras theorem is basically useless in finding unknown angles. Okay, and you can also use Stochastic to find unknown lengths. Okay, so as long as I know one side and one length given, as long as it's given one angle and one side, I can easily find the length of all three sides of the triangle. Okay, so if I have two sides, and if I know two sides and I want to find the last side, I will use Pythagoras theorem. But if I already know one side, and I know one angle other than 90 degrees, of course, then I will use Tuakaso. Okay, so this is for the right angle triangle itself. Then applying to all triangles, we have the sine rule and cosine rule. So basically, altogether, we have gone through four different cases. One, two, three, four. And let's talk about the first two cases. Okay, so the first two cases for sine rule itself is when I have two angles and one side, or two sides and a non-included angle. So two angles. So given two angles and one side, given two angles, one side, or given two sides and a non-included angle. Then I will use basically my sine rule. Okay, your A over sine A equals to B over sine B equals to C over sine C. Okay, and if I'm given two sides and an included angle, or I'm given all three sides, then I will use my cosine rule, which is simply A square equals to B square plus C square minus 2bc cos A. Okay, so of course, um if there's more than enough information, let's say I'm given all three angles and no side, then definitely there's no point already. You can't use sine rule or cosine rule already. But if I'm given three sides and one angle, let's say, then you know for a fact that I can use either sine or cosine rule. Up to you. Because three sides and one angle can be the case of two sides and non-included angle, or two sides and included angle. It's up to you to choose whichever you want. Okay. Now, before I end off my summary, okay, because like I say later on, okay, just a simple introduction to the next part that we are going to do. Okay, we will be doing uh chapter 8. So basically, let's zoom out. Okay, everything that we do over here. Okay, everything that we do over here. Oops. Okay, everything that we do over here, which is chapter 7, as well as whatever we did. Okay, we will be applying it in chapter 8 later on. Okay, we will apply this in chapter 8 under application of trigonometry. Okay, so that's how you'll see the questions. They won't tell you whether to use uh they won't tell you whether or not to use your sine rule, cosine rule, or Pythagoras theorem, or Tuakaso. You have to decide yourself, which is why we take the pain to go to two sides angle, two sides included angle, two angles one side, three sides. Okay, then we see which one to use. Okay, now last but not least, I'll give you some, we'll end off with some good news. The good news is, okay, this whole part over here, let me divide this. This thing over here, this half AB sine C. This sine rule over here, sine rule A over sine A equals to B over sine B equals to C over sine C. This cosine rule itself, your A square equals to B square plus C square minus 2BC cosine A. All this is simply given in the formula sheet. So you don't have to memorize anything lah. Okay. So the fun part about this is already given the formula sheet. You don't have to memorize anything. Okay. You just need to know how to apply it itself. Right, so with that, we will end off this chapter 7 on trigonometry. Have a nice day, people. See you in the next video on chapter 8.